So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pass the stream off to the very, very capable hands of Mr. Gerald Morris and Two Peas on a Podcast. And Loy Sauce, who's in a tank top, he's already sexy as hell, and now he's trying to look even sexier for us.
Oh my god!
Damn,
man alive! So let me
rocking
go ahead and
that Jack Burton love,
get
yeah,
him set up
baby.
here. So please donate, ladies and gentlemen. If you donate between now and 8 o'clock, you're entered to win this bad boy. So please, please, please make sure that you donate. Okay? So guys, Gerald Morris, and I'm going to go die somewhere for a while.
You've earned it, Nick.
I wish it was just for the rest of the stream.
Oh, hi, Dan.
Wow,
Oh, hi.
Did you attempt to match me on purpose?
No. Dude, I don't have hair. Why would I try to match you? Get the fuck out of here. Also,
Bro.
Gerald,
Bro, the shirt with the hair. That's that. I'm not talking about your hair.
yeah, you can't. It's not there.
I see some on the side, so that's kind of a lie.
You're right. I have the Larry David going on.
Where Gerald? Do I get to yell at him now for being late to his
Yes.
own segment?
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, while we're waiting for Gerald to get on here, we've prepared a really awesome top 5 for you guys, but some huge breaking news just landed in the movie world, and I have to talk about it because we're a movie podcast and that's what we do. Ryan Gosling will be the Wolfman.
What? Are you serious?
I sent you the deadline link, dude. Yeah, he's
I
the.
didn't see it.
They said, and you're gonna like this, Dan. They said the film will be in the vein of Jake Gyllenhaal's Nightcrawler.
Ooh, that makes
Why
me
is-
very
Why
excited.
is Dan Gilroy directing it? And will it be better than Velvet Buzzsaw?
Oh God, I hope so.
They have not announced a director yet, and please don't bring up Velvet Buzzsaw. Look, you know that I was just as disappointed in that movie as you were. Thank you.
We fought over who was most disappointed.
Tis true. Tis true. Even though you still won't ever understand my disappointment for Under the Silver Lake, but that's okay. That's fine. That's entirely.
Oh, no.
I've accepted it.
No, I understand. I mean, David Gordon Green, after It Follows, goes on to that, and you're like, oh, awesome. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is like overstuffed symbolism. Like, it's just too much. Like, believe me, I understand like sensory overload with that kind of stuff.
Do you mean Jason Robert Mitchell?
Sure, I don't know who the fuck I'm talking about. I tried to
Clearly.
sound smart for 2 seconds.
That's okay.
It's pretty to look at, though, and I love Andrew Garfield in it. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, we're getting off on a tangent here. This is what happens when the Epic Film guys get together. We do kind of like a warm-up session for like 30 minutes, 15 minutes or so, and just bullshit about movies, and then we jump onto the
Not
subject.
bold enough. Sorry, Nick's up.
But Gerald,
what's up, dudes?
you're late to your own segment. It's been 2 minutes,
Come on,
buddy.
man. I was getting set up, brother. How you doing?
Set up.
Yeah, I'm using Nick's equipment, and I don't know how to use his equipment.
I see.
I got a crash course though. So what's up? So yeah, as everybody can see, Justin and Loy have joined us. Dan is here, and Dan and I have been on site, and I thought it'd be fun to get everybody together. We haven't had enough horror yet. Am I right, guys? Justin,
You can never have enough.
Yeah, you got to throw some horror into the mix, guys.
It's already too much.
It's already too much horror. So before we get started, so obviously 2Ps, we do a top 5 show. We do a countdown. We try to have fun, kind of roundtable discussion about our picks and so on and so forth. Before we dive into that, I am also auctioning off a prize, as you can see in the top window of the chat there. And Nick's going to come back at the end of the hour to help me draw the raffle. But that is a set of all 7 Nightmare on Elm Street films.
Prime time, bitch.
Yes. And somebody's going to win that. So it's a Blu-ray DVD set. And I will be sending that to you literally today from Amazon if you are the winner. And the only thing you have to do to be entered to win that during this horror segment is donate $5 or more.
Done.
Every time you donate $5, you get an entry. And Mr. Nick's going to help me draw that at the end. Now, I conferred with my horror aficionados, which is Loy Sauce and Justin, Epic Film Guy Justin.
Aw.
Who wants to tell the folks what the topic is this evening? What are we counting down?
Well, in regular Epic Film Guys fashion, that would be the sauce that would explain that to our audience. So I'm going to pass it along to the god of podcasting himself.
Please.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
God damn it. Do I have to
Wow.
drive over there with my mask on and pull the
Yes.
belt out on your raw ass?
Yes.
What are we counting down tonight, Loy Sauce? What's the
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a really layup. It's a layup question.
The top 5 horror sequels.
Horror sequels. That's right. Christianity, thank you for the $4.28 donation. However, I need 5 to get you in the drawing, so keep at it. You're doing well. I love Christianity. So, yeah, we're doing top 5 horror sequels, guys.
I think
So,
there's a question in the chat about, like, is every $5
Nick, can you
an
pull up the chat
entry,
for me?
or is it...
Nick, can you pull up the chat for me? It's not. That's why I'm asking you to pull it up. Hang on, he's pulling up the chat for me.
This guy.
Is every $5 an entry, or is it $5 and up that counts as
Every
one entry?
$5, I want to be an entry. Can we do that?
Ooh.
Do you have any idea how much of a pain in the ass that's going to be for me to draw live?
Well, we can do it later. I mean, but we can do that, right?
Oh my God.
Want to?
I mean, I'd like to.
Boy,
Let's do it how Gerald wants.
Yeah, I think we can do it, but Nick
Gerald has
seems
been
upset
such a
with
great
me.
sport.
The man drove all the way the fuck up there. Let the man have
Look,
something.
guys, what
will
I
ya?
want to do is for every $5 donation. So if you donate $50, you get 10 entries. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to talk to Nick about that, make that happen. He can even show me the website. I can go through it.
Shut up. We can do it.
All right, we can do what he says. Okay, so every $5 donation is an entry for that Nightmare on Elm Street set for the original 7 films. And we are counting down our top 5 horror sequels. There's no limitation on eras. Me, Justin, and Loy Sauce are pretty known to be horror fanboys. Dan wanted to join us as well.
Because
We
the
already got a
non-horror
donation
community-
dropping. So Real Feels, Drew just dropped $20. So there you go. Thank you, Drew. Love Drew. He's going to have to buy himself another shot, too, if he keeps going. So don't forget that, Drew.
Thanks, Drew.
So what do you think, guys? Horror sequel. Dan, you're not known as the horror guy. Why did you want to join this discussion? I think that's an interesting question because obviously the other 3 on the panel, it's a no-brainer. But you wanted to be a
Dan,
part
why
of
are
it.
you here?
You wanted to be a part of it, but why? I think it's interesting to ask.
Because I wanted to be.
Yeah.
He's pulling his executive producer card, which I will allow because of all the hard work. So, and Dan has been definitely doing his homework. I've been watching the movies he's been watching every
Oh,
week.
Why have you watched Alien Private Eye?
No, but I'm
Oh
saying
my God, watch it.
I'm paying attention to what you've been watching,
Nice.
and I think when it comes down to it, why the hell not, man? We're all here to have a blast and have a good time and raise money for cancer research, and let's talk some fucking horror, boys. Let's do this shit.
Hell yeah, dude. So we're going to start going around the horn, and we're going to go 5 to 1. Most people know if they listen to my show. Michelle, thank you so much. So $25 just came in from Michelle, a patron of our show, and she's
Damn.
the best. Thank
Thanks,
you so much
Michelle.
for that, Michelle. She's being entered 5 times, if my math is right on that. All right, so who wants to start us off for your 5th favorite horror sequel? We're going to count down 5 to 1. There's no
Let's
limitation
start
on
with the
era.
youngest. We got to start with the youngest here.
All right. So, dear Lord, oh Lord, what is your number 5?
Number 5, Friday the 13th, Part 4, The Final Chapter.
Miserably low. Are you really going to start this out with that really being that low?
Look, I don't
Oh
need your
my
editorial.
God.
Simply one of the finest slasher movies ever made. It elevated the camp slasher saga to immortal status by featuring some of the series' best humor, best suspense, best characters, and best kills. You've got a script that's self-aware but never silly. You've got Tom Savini returning to provide stellar makeup effects. You've got Corey Feldman as a pint-sized hero we can all root for. You've got Crispin Glover doing the most amazing dance you've ever seen. What more could you want in a horror movie?
A dead fuck. Or 2 dead fucks, maybe.
God, I'm horny. Anyway, it's called The Final Chapter, but Jason Voorhees, the way he's portrayed in this movie is so unforgettable that they'd go on to make 8 more of these motion pictures. And I think that speaks to how iconic Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter is.
Well, I have a Friday the 13th in my 5, but it's a different one, which you guys will be interested to hear, I think, when it comes around. I talked about it with Paul in the countdown before, too. It's probably my favorite Jason movie, but not really a consensus pick. What do you think?
Is it Jason X?
No, but I do love that one, and I actually thought about it.
It almost made my list. It
Yeah.
almost made my
I'm
list.
gonna be honest. It almost made my list too.
Yeah, I actually.
It's a good
thought hard
movie.
about it. Yeah.
It's
Dan, are we gonna be friends now?
dude. Let me tell you
Jason
something. It's not a kill technically because they're holograms, but him beating the girl with the other girl in the sleeping bag is the fucking funniest thing I've ever seen.
All right, so Dan, if you like that kill, it was originated in part 7, the original sleeping bag kill, which is superior. It's a throwback to that, but check it
Right.
out if you get the chance.
Right. Okay, nice pick, Loy Sauce. You know I love it, man. So Jason getting some love right out of the gate. Let's see. Dan, do you want to go next, man?
I am next youngest, so yes.
All right, go for it.
I am going with my favorite horror movie franchise, the one I've seen every movie to, Saw 2.
Okay.
I don't know. It's before it went to like torture porn, which basically like 6 and 7. What the fuck else? Jigsaw-ish became like too over the top and grotesque, but this was like still interesting. It still had Jigsaw as alive, so they didn't have to shoehorn him in somehow into the narrative. So, yes, as Drew says, the needle pit is my greatest horror. I am terrified of needles. So when Amanda got thrown in that needle pit, I was cringing.
Oh, dude, it's one of the best kills in the entire franchise overall.
That's not a kill because she's alive in 3.
Trap. I know what Justin meant.
Yeah.
Well, we call them kills in the horror community.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Snob Boy.
Well, I know Epic Film Guy Nick is a huge Saw fan. I don't know if he heard that. Your boy Danny picked Saw 2.
I got a fist
as
bump.
his number 5 there. All right, good pick. I love
a
the
good
original
movie.
Saw. I don't know.
Original Saw is great.
Yeah, the original Saw is a great horror movie in my opinion. The sequels they're fine. To quote Dan, they're fine. Justin, I want you to
No,
end.
it's
Is that
fine.
okay if you're the finale?
What's that?
Is it okay if you're the finale? I want you to wrap us up. So I'm going to go next.
Oh, come on.
Or
All right,
you
well,
want to go next?
that's fine. That's fine.
You're the
Go right
epic film
ahead.
guy,
This is
man.
your segment, man. You do whatever
All
you
right,
want.
so I told you guys I had a Jason entry at my 5, and what I'm going with is just, I mean, it's kind of a guilty pleasure, but I love it. It's just so much fun, and it's just Jason being Jason times 1,000. But it's Jason Lives, Part 6. I love
One
it.
of the best of the series.
I love
Absolutely.
it, man. I mean, the lightning bolt to start with, and just that whole sequence in the beginning, and just some of the best, just some of the most like brutal kills, but also you kind of like laugh and have a good time, which is kind of weird. You're kind of like, this is kind of brutal, but it's also really, really fun. And it's just Jason dialed up to 11, man. So for my money, that's my favorite Jason flick.
You say brutal. As soon as he gets reanimated with a bolt of lightning through the chest, he gets up out of his grave and he rips a dude's heart out of his chest.
Right.
So yes,
Right.
it is one of the best openings to any Friday the 13th movie ever made. Top 5 for me. It didn't make the cut, but it's
Okay.
going to probably show up in my honorable mentions for
Okay.
sure.
Real quick, I just want to shout out Interrupted Tales. They gave us a $10 donation. Thank you so much.
Thank
Those guys are coming up later this evening, by the way, so look forward to that. They're great. All right, Justin, I'm going to have you wrap up the first round here, man. What's your number 5?
It is the sequel to the classic 1974 horror movie that really changed the face of the genre for the remainder of that decade. It turned black humor into something called red humor, which is really specific to the film itself, and poked fun at the subject matter with still paying homage to what came before it. I'm talking about Tobe Hooper's canon classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. There's not a more fun movie in the 80s realm than Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. We actually did a double feature last summer at Alamo Drafthouse, a Terror Tuesday screening with the original and the sequel. And I swear to God, the sequel got more applause from the audience. There's an overt sexual tension throughout the film. When heads get chopped off, it's funny and blood sprays everywhere. And you have Tom Savini effects all over the place that are fantastic. Tobe Hooper came into the project and really wanted to do something completely different with it. He didn't want to make the same movie as the original, and it shows, and it's a lot of fucking fun. And the rewatch value, I mean, Dennis Hopper with the biggest cowboy hat you've ever seen swinging around a chainsaw.
Two chainsaws.
Yes, 2 at the end, yes. It's such a blast, and huge huge shout out to Carolyn Williams as Stretch from that movie. She's not only hot, she is a great heroine and an amazing final girl. So for me, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
Right.
It also features one of the best jump scares in horror movie history.
Yeah, I'm down with that. That's a good. That's a Canon flick, right? So where's it at on the Canon quarantine?
Well, we haven't gotten to it yet. We've been letting our fans pick those movies, except for when
Okay.
we pulled the veto card this week and did Death Wish 3. But fantastic flick. And how I approached this list was I really wanted to pick movies that kind of took what the original film did and built upon it, or did something completely different with it, or changed it in some kind of way. I didn't want to do like a Poltergeist 2 type situation or an Exorcist 2 or any of those lame flops.
So over in the chat, Contrarian Julio pointed out that it is a Canon movie, so I think he's trying to allude to something
It's
there.
a canon movie.
And Drew said he just finished binging the entire Friday the 13th franchise, and this is bringing back some memories for him. Thinks Jason X is fabulous. I agree. Drew, thank you guys for commenting. Drop your favorite horror sequels in the chat, and I will try to read as many of them as I can as well. So we're back over to you, Loy Sauce. What's your number 4, man?
My number 4 is not only one of the best horror sequels ever made, but for my money, one of the best horror movies ever made, period. It's The Conjuring 2.
Good one.
Our savior, the almighty and all-knowing James Wan, he has a gift for audience manipulation. And I don't mean that in a bad way or in a disparaging way, but it's the way in which he meticulously crafts each individual scare for maximum effect. We've seen plenty of haunted house movies before, so there are cliches and there are jump scares, which can prove to be very aggravating when they're not done with a lot of craft and care. But in The Conjuring 2, they're always earned every single time.
Mm-hmm.
It also introduces a pair of horror icons, The Nun, who had a horror movie of herself, a spinoff that was massively disappointing.
Don't tell anyone, please don't. Let's not talk about that.
And The Crooked Man, and they have not yet ruined The Crooked Man in a spinoff
Not
movie.
yet. It's early.
Yet. But the film also develops another pair of horror icons, Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. And they bring such a humanity and a heart to the film. And due to their chemistry and the way their relationship is written, you genuinely care about them, like they're heroes. And so I adore it with every fiber of my being. And even though my beloved James Wan isn't coming back for The Conjuring 3, I hope it's even half as good as what I will affectionately dub the Empire Strikes Back of horror sequels, The Conjuring 2.
Nice. It scared the shit out of me. I'll tell you that. I watched that one and the original in my bedroom in the dark, and that was a mistake.
Loisos and I saw that when he was managing a theater, and we went and watched it at midnight in a totally empty, huge, large format theater together. And I was legitimately scared by that movie at that time. I love that movie so much.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much to Lantern Tongue for the $20
Hey.
donation. $20 coming in for that.
That's
Thank
my
you so
friend.
much.
That's my friend N
Oh, nice. Thank you, N.
and Steve.
Nice. So entered for the Nightmare on Elm Street set. So nicely done there. All right, Dan, you ready, man? What's your number 4? You're like 5 feet away from me, but I feel like I'm yelling at you. But go ahead.
It's fine. I feel like it too. So I want to thank Paul from the Countdown for showing me or making me watch this movie really through Patreon. But Final Destination 2, I mean, you start with 100 out of 10 sequence with the highway truck scene like that.
Oh, it's so fucking good.
It's so good, and the movie actually it dips a bit because of how insane that sequence is, but it's still consistently great. And I just love watching all the kills, like the glass, like the pane of glass kill, even though it's not physically possible the way it happened. But regardless, it was still amazing. Like all the kills are amazing, but that opening scene on the highway is just perfection.
You know that anytime that I drive by a tractor trailer with logs next to it, if it's a 2 or 3 or 4 lane highway, I go as far away from that fucking thing as I possibly can. Also, one of the best kills ever in any movie, the fence kill with the barbed wire at the end, literally slices the dude in half. I saw that shit in theaters and oh God, I loved it so much.
Patrick says, is that Jack Burton or Loy Sauce? Nice pick, Dan. I love that opening scene alone. That's got to be one of the best opening scenes in horror, in my opinion, as well. All right, so I'm up next, right? So my number 4 might be a little surprising, and I was looking through, when we decided to do this, guys, a few hours ago, and I was looking through, and I ended up with 2 movies from 2018 in my top 5, which I was really surprised at myself.
Wow.
This is the first of those 2, and it's a series that I love, so I'm kind of biased because I feel like together these 2 movies are just phenomenally, just entertaining, dark, and just a fun watch. But it's The Strangers, Pray at Night, which came out in 2018. It wasn't critically acclaimed, and a lot of people didn't love it from the critic circles. But this is so. Go ahead, Lloyd. Go ahead.
No, please.
Well, I was going to say.
I'm just saying, I liked it.
Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, the pool scene, guys, where they're stalking the victims around the pool with the kind of neon palm trees around the pool. The cinematography and the production design in that scene alone is enough reason for it to make my list. It's just so beautiful and scary at the same time. And when you can merge fear and beauty like that, man, you sell me. The first one, Because You Were Home, is one of the most iconic. There's no motive. I mean, these guys, the strangers, you don't know why they're doing what they're doing. It's just they're just there to terrorize these people. And it's a very scary thing. And home invasion films, I've always been a fan of those. And I love this series as a whole. But, of course, we're talking about sequels tonight. So Pray at Night would be my 4. What do you guys think?
I really enjoyed it, man. I'm actually very, very surprised that it showed up on your list.
Yeah,
I was actually, to come up with my list, I was looking at my collection and, basically just kind of try to get things down to a small list. And that's up there. I own the film. I saw an advanced screening of it and was quite surprised by how good it was. It's definitely one that built upon what the first film did and did something totally different. It's a huge homage to 80s slashers, especially, John Carpenter, the truck on fire at the end of Christine, great synthwave score. And you know what, dude, you're close enough. If you want to see props from that fucking movie, just go to Kenny from the Myers house. So already, he's already got a bunch of them there.
He's got that.
Yeah.
He's got one of those palm trees in
the palm trees from the pool scene. Yeah.
And last year for, his October Halloween party, I went inside the house. He basically has it set up like a museum, but he literally has that tree like in his living room where he watches, TV at night. And I'm like, dude, you're awesome. I love this. But yeah, if you guys want to look up the Myers house in North Carolina, if you're ever down there, it is definitely a trip and an experience. I can't wait for you dudes to come down to it, actually. All right, so where are we at? Who's up next? Justin, what do you got, man?
All right, so this has to make the list. It's a requirement. There's no way I could go through this without mentioning it. It took what the first film did, amped it up times 10, and really punched up the comedy element to it. It's basically a remake of the first film. It's not necessarily a sequel in any way, but I'm talking about Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2, also known as Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn.
Oh, I assumed you were talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
No, it is not Garbage Day, Dan. Put that shit away.
It's Garbage Day!
No, I mean, you have to... This didn't necessarily revolutionize what the first film did, but it definitely built upon it and made a much better movie. Sam knew the limitations that he had with the first movie and the budget and everything that was available to them. They made the best movie they could, and I still think the first Evil Dead movie is a classic, but this one, as I said, amped it up, juiced it up, if you will, and Bruce Campbell, for the first time, as Ash, says groovy when he ties that he wraps around that chainsaw to his, his stumpy wrist. It's just so iconic. And, the black humor here is amazing. It's one of the funniest, the most gory, the most entertaining, and has one of the best rewatch values of any horror movie ever made. I know every single person will agree with me. And if you don't, you're wrong. It's Evil Dead 2.
I agree with you so much that it's my number 3.
Oh, nice.
I'm proud of you, Dan.
Dan's 3, Evil Dead 2. All right.
For basically the exact same reason Justin said. Justin said it perfectly, so I don't need to say anything.
All right. Well, I love it. So match up there on Evil Dead 2. Justin's 4, Dan's 3. Loy Sauce, what's your 3, man?
My number 3. When I think horror movie, one of the first images that comes to my mind is the Bride of Frankenstein. Even though she doesn't appear until the very end, Elsa Lanchester's performance and that amazing hairdo are so instantly recognizable. For me, it's one of the most entertaining of the classic Universal monster series. there's that scene in which Frankenstein's monster and the blind hermit, which was spoofed so brilliantly with Gene Hackman and Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But that scene, the way it plays out in Bride of Frankenstein, is so immensely powerful. There's religious subtext, there's queer subtext, there's themes about life and love and death and everything in between. It's atmospheric. There's a slight camp element to it. It's oddly emotional, and it's coursing with a strange electricity that is impossible to describe unless you've experienced it. So James Whale's Bride of Frankenstein from 1935, my number 3.
I love the
Major
callback to the
props
classic,
on that
man.
one.
Yeah.
Major
impressed.
props.
Loisos, I will call that hairstyle from the Bride of Frankenstein iconic.
Iconic. I said instantly recognizable, I
Yeah.
think. So I mean,
No. But
kind of the same
Justin's here.
idea.
Iconic.
Yes.
You can say it.
Listen, Dan, you may pay attention to how many times I say something per episode. I don't know. And I don't know what I don't listen to our episodes. I just review
okay.
stuff and talk, and that's all. That's all I do. So
That's why you call every third thing iconic.
I wanted to see Julio.
if it is iconic, I'll say so.
I wanted to see Julio's comment here in the chat because I think Nick will like this. He said, "Ash versus the Hand is greater than Batman versus Superman."
Correct.
That's definitely correct. Yes. I can't dispute that.
That's him flipping you off, Julio. I don't think he agrees with you. Let's see. Julio also just made a donation, but I missed how much it was. I think it was $20. Thank you so much, Julio. You're the man, dude.
Thank you.
Patron of the Peas as well. I love that guy. He's going to be
Patron
on
of Netflix
tomorrow,
and
guys,
Swill.
the Contrarians. What's wrong? What'd you do that for?
So now you hear how fucking loud you are.
Oh, Jesus. Do you know how loud you are when you're over here?
Jesus Christ.
All right, it's my turn, right, guys?
Yes.
I don't think Nick ever knows or will ever know how loud he is.
No, he doesn't.
All right, so I guess I got to keep it down a little bit. Let's see. My number 3 is from The Horror Master. I love this dude. Again, I probably love this sequel so much because of the original, but it's Scream 2 from 1997.
Oh my God! Seriously?
I love, yes. Are you?
I love you, Gerald.
I just love it, man. I mean, it's piggybacking on the original, of course, so I have that bias going into it. But one of the best scenes in the entire series, if not the best scene, is when Neve Campbell's climbing into the car and she has to climb over Ghostface, and her friend have to get out of the car without waking him up. It's just a very tense scene that goes on for several minutes, and you're literally on the edge of your seat the whole time. I love that scene. I wasn't as in love with the plot twist at the end of this movie as I was in the original because I didn't see it coming in the original, whereas in this one I wasn't quite as surprised. But I love Wes Craven. I mean, he is the granddaddy. I love this guy. And, I'm a sucker for all of the Scream films, I got to be honest, including 3, guys. So
I'm not even gonna lie, man. This movie is most definitely on my honorable mentions. I love Scream 2, and I mean, I agree with everything you said there. In particular, the scene that you're referring to in the cop car, completely improvised scene. That's the genius of Wes Craven. That wasn't even really written into the script the way that it appeared on screen. They just went with it. They shot it, like 3 a.m, and just look at how amazing that turned out.
Right.
You don't see that in modern horror films anymore. Everything's so formulaic, and God rest his soul.
And
Wes Craven,
Tony
genius.
Tony Dobish and Patrick mentioned the opening of that movie too. They love with the stab.
All-timer.
Dude.
All timer. Yeah, I mean, Loisos knows after how many times he's been over here with drunken midnight showings of movies. I've put in Scream 2 literally over 15 times. It's just that it's that comfort flick for me. It literally is. I love it so much.
I'm surprising you guys with my list though, right? With Strangers and Scream 2. And then my runner-up's going to as well, I think. But
I like your picks so far,
I was just
man.
making
They're
my
great.
list, man, and I feel like these are the sequels I would just throw in the Blu-ray player.
Well, you knew better too. You knew better. You knew we were gonna, we were
Yeah,
gonna jump
no,
over
yeah.
each other and have a lot of the same picks. So.
I do have a lot of classics.
You did
on my
well.
honorables, but I tried to avoid a lot of cross up there. All right, we're gonna swing it back around to I believe Dan's up next.
It's
right?
Justin.
Oh, Justin. That's right, because he's wrapping
Holy
up the round. That's
fuck!
okay.
I have to host this
You
segment.
know I'm horrible at this roundtable thing. Justin,
Are you
go
guys
for me.
drinking? Are you guys drinking
I
up
am.
there?
I
a
was.
little bit.
All right, good. All right, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk around in a mall. One of the best sequels of all time, let alone best horror sequels of all time. George Romero took what he did in his iconic 1960s classic film, Night of the Living Dead. Yes. I say that
Drink.
word a lot. with passion, with deep passion, ladies and gentlemen, and with Dario Argento at hand to help collaborate, another horror icon created something so claustrophobic, so amazing, and so memorable, and one of the best crowd-pleasing zombie movies ever made. There would be no Walking Dead without Dawn of the Dead at all. There'd be no zombie movies at all whatsoever. So I loved Dawn of the Dead. It had to make this list. There it is at my number 3.
Some honorable mentions. I love it too. There's just not a ton of classics in my top 5. I don't know. I was kind of a lot more modern than I expected to be.
Well, yeah, you have to think. I mean, it took the original concept of zombies and really built upon it so hugely. In, the idea of shopping malls and the political analysis and social commentary in there. I mean, it's way beyond anything that any other horror movie was doing at the time, and way before its time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously Romero is the master. So I also love the stories about how, the lore that he went shopping, because malls were a new thing, and he went shopping with some friends or family members or something to that effect, and he just kind of had the light bulb idea, like everybody's walking through this mall, going in and out of stores, kind of like zombies, and it was like, ding,
I still need to visit the Monroeville Mall. Loisas is actually friends with the gentleman
that ghost town
that helped fund the George Romero bust plaque that is beautiful, that stands inside that mall for this movie.
Visit it. Yeah,
we need to go visit it when it reopens and things go back to normal.
Hopefully we'll be back in Pittsburgh for that.
All right, well, great pick, man. Obviously a classic, so I love it. All right, Loy, you ready, man? You started this off. We're up to our runner-ups, guys. So what's your number 2, man?
Ooh. I've said this many times on the show before, but the first time I watched A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors was like a religious experience for me. I literally felt my soul leave my body and ascend after watching Dream Warriors. It's difficult to describe. I think the reason why I find it so special is because it embraces the creativity of the concept that Wes Craven created in the original 1984 film, and expands upon it, as Justin put it. It taps into the primal fears and desires of teens and young people in a way that's very authentic and very empathetic. It's full of grotesque kills and icky imagery, but also a very hopeful and inspiring message about working together with others who understand what you're going through, or who may share a mutual experience to face and combat your fears. And this is the movie in which Freddy Krueger became not only a terrifying slasher movie villain, but a pop culture icon. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the rare sequels that I think surpasses the original, arguably. And Justin and I talked about this film at length. If people are curious and want to check out, if you want to hear us gush all over this movie, about 3 years ago, we did a full-length B-side episode on Dream Warriors. But if a movie can literally make my soul ascend,
right,
then you've got something really special.
Yeah, you don't get much better than that.
Thank you, Tony, for that $5
thank you
donation, buddy.
Yeah, Tony Dobish, $5. He's got another entry into what we're just talking about, actually. So the Freddy set there, the Nightmare on Elm Street set. Spoiler alert for my list, but Dream Warriors I could not leave off. No way I could leave it off. I've talked about it at length on my show before, too. It's come up on a few different lists that we've done that have been horror-related. But I absolutely love it.
It's way higher up on my list.
Yeah, same here. But it's a great pick, man. You won't get any argument from me. I think, for my money, the best Freddy kills are in Dream Warriors. I would say maybe the top 2 or 3 kills that Freddy's ever performed are in this one movie. So I'll talk about it here in a moment. But first, Dan is going to give us his runner-up. What do you got, man?
All right, this is probably the most niche pick on my list. I know Justin's heard of it because he's like, oh my God, you're watching that? And it's obviously one of my favorites. It's VHS 2.
Okay.
It's a horror anthology movie, which, like, the general, like, storyline is that, like, these guys come across, like, this house full of tapes, and it's like, oh, let's keep putting in these tapes and just watch them because, fuck it, we need a narrative for this movie that sort of tangentially connects everything.
Just put a narrative in there.
Yeah, fuck it, just put a narrative in there. But, like, my favorite one, as I say all the time, is I think it's the Thai cult, basically, where it's just a cult, and I love cults. As anyone who listens to me talk knows, I love cults so much. But I mean, also the first one The first story is also pretty inventive because it's a guy who is has like a GoPro on his bike helmet. He gets killed in the middle of the woods, and it's just like him, like following him around from a first-person perspective as he's wandering through the woods, living his life as a zombie. It's very inventive, and like I look forward to watching it every single Halloween.
Yeah. It's a good pick. It wasn't on my radar, but I know these films are well revered. Justin, Brian, you guys into the VHS flicks?
I think there are strong segments in the first two VHS films. I like most anthology horror films; they're very hit or miss for me. But certainly the cult segment in part two is very memorable and chilling.
Most definitely. I mean, I remember the first time when the first VHS came out, it was really exciting because there hadn't been an anthology horror film come out in a long time. And I'm definitely a fan of them. I mean, since that, we've had some really mediocre attempts at anthologies. So I definitely think the first one stands out a little bit more than the second, but I enjoyed the second one as well.
Don't watch VHS Viral, though. Don't do it.
No.
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Don't waste your time.
That's not just for you guys. That's for everybody. Don't do it.
Oh, okay. Nick's taking over my chat, guys. Anything that Two Peas on a Podcast is saying in the chat is Nick, including Justin sucks. I didn't say that, buddy. I love you.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I do suck if you give me enough money. It depends on what body part you want me to suck, though.
A dick last night.
All right, man.
It's not true. This is Gerald. I hate Justin.
I wanted to read a couple comments. Ashley hates, I guess, VHS 2, Dan.
She does. I have to watch this on my own.
And Julio says it inspired an NES video game. I think he was maybe referring to Dream Warriors there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopester Mania says Aliens is number 4 on Rolling Stone's top 20 list of horror sequels.
Rolling Stones is a music magazine.
You know,
Guess what?
Do you want to have the Aliens conversation? Because I did that more sci-fi.
Yeah, well, we could do it right now. I mean, basically what I was saying to Patrick Sherwood, which is the Hopester's biggest fan, is Aliens isn't a horror movie. You have to think of what genre it is at the forefront, what it is first and foremost. And then, you know, there are elements there. Alien itself is definitely a horror, thriller, science fiction film.
Mm-hmm.
A slasher for all intents and purposes.
Yes, it is.
Pretty much, yeah.
Aliens is an action science fiction thriller horror. It has deep horror elements, but it's more concerned about ratcheting up tension and action than it is scaring you. There are spooky elements to it. It retains that from the first film, but its main goal is to entertain you and excite you, not frighten you. And I think that's why Aliens is, in my book, not a horror film at all.
Yeah,
I think
I'm with you on that. I would lean more towards the sci-fi thriller side of the spectrum. But I mean, the lines are definitely blurred though, so I get it. And you know, me and Loisos had a conversation when we did 90s horror that was kind of similar in terms of like Silence of the Lambs, where the lines are kind of blurred, where you can obviously understand why someone might say it's a horror. But I don't know, it seems weird to kind of police that a little bit. But I think of Aliens more as just like a sci-fi thriller, you know? But
yeah, I mean,
it's amazing.
I mean, the original Alien has jump scares, so definitely means it was meant to frighten. It is a slasher in a spaceship. A lot of people try to call Jaws a horror movie, which I don't totally agree with, but it does have scares, so I have to accept when people regard it in the genre that way. But Aliens is first and foremost an action movie, and no matter who else disputes that with me, I don't care. I've watched the movie literally over 50 times, and the action is what is most important to that movie, and the tension that builds.
Danny Odie, $20 donation coming in. Got some entries for the Nightmare on Elm Street box set we're going to be giving away at the end of the segment. Drew says, "Game over, man. Game over."
Justin, I've watched Aliens one time, and I agree with you 100%.
Thank you, Dan. Wow, this is different. This is strange. We're actually agreeing on something.
Yeah, he was shaking his head pretty rapidly when you were giving that commentary, so I thought he agreed with you there. All right, so my runner-up, guys, is the other 2018 film on my list, and I actually had to ask Mr. Dan because we're here together on site, and I hope I don't get bashed too much by the horror aficionados that have actually interviewed the guy in the mask from this movie, The Shape, but it's David Gordon Green's Halloween from 2018. This, to me, is a sequel to Halloween 78, the original. It's a direct continuation 40 years later. So that's why I decided to put it on this list. Michael Myers, as a lot of people in the chat, and I know Justin knows, is my horror icon. He's my favorite
I mean, dude, you
slasher.
even sent me a Michael Myers magnet, which is on my fridge right
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
I know
That
this
was
very
handmade,
well.
by the way. I got a couple of those. That was handmade. I mean, I'm just a Michael Myers fanatic. I mean, you know, I have memorabilia at my house. He's on my wallpaper on my computer that Nick's probably looking at right now. And to have him come back in this glorious fashion, because the story, let's be honest, got so jumbled with all the sequels. I still enjoy them. They all have their high points that I love. You know, I saw some people on the page earlier mention Halloween 3, which is to me is a standalone film, but in general,
It definitely is.
yeah, I mean, but in general, they all have good pieces. But they just started doing all this weird shit, and it got really kind of convoluted. And then guess what? In 2018, and by the way, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride are local guys in North Carolina, so I have that connection as well. But they brought it back, man, and they said, you know what? We're going to go back to what Carpenter did in '78. We're just going to basically do the same movie. I mean, I'm not trying to be too simplistic when I explain it, but that's how it felt to me.
No,
as a
you're
fan.
100% correct, man. And I had to actually pretty
Go
much
ahead.
fight myself for not having this on my list, because you know how excited I was for this movie, talking with James Jude Courtney before the film came out, and how much I supported it and how I still support it and how excited I am for the sequel. Everything you're saying is 100% true.
Yeah, an amazing interview that he did with James Jude Courtney. Guys, go back and find that on the EFG feed if you haven't, if you're a horror fan. It was awesome. I've heard you tell tales about how you've texted him when you're seeing different things, and I'm definitely envious of that. But, you know, my daughter's going to be going to the university, UNC School of the Arts here, and that's where David Gordon Green filmed like 6 months in advance Halloween 18 for the kids there, for the students there, at their theater on campus. And I told her, I'm like, if he does that for the new one and you don't call me, Inheritance is not going to look good for you. So
Listen, you know that I applied to be an extra on Halloween Kills every single day of production and got declined and denied every single day of production.
Right.
You already know that. So I'm fighting for part 3 though, for Halloween Ends. Hopefully they'll need a green-haired.
they got to have
Now,
you, man. They need you.
now
They just don't know
in
yet.
shape. Now I could do the scene where they're like in shape guy with tattoos. Then I couldn't, but now I can. So
Right. So, Loisos, what do you think of the Halloween pick before you give us yours?
Oh, I champion it for sure, and I don't understand. I see a lot of I'm a member of many Facebook groups of horror aficionados and stuff, and I see constant hate for this movie, and I don't understand. I want to ask those people.
Women-led in 2018.
I'm sorry.
That's it. It's a woman-led film in 2018. That's what it would.
Well, I'm sure that's part of it, but it's like, I want to ask them, like, what were you expecting? What more could you possibly want from a Halloween film? Honestly, you know, and in their rankings, people put like Halloween 5 over Halloween 2018.
Yeah,
I'm like, are you high? Are you
crazy.
fucking high? Because there's no other explanation.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Drew says there's hate
everything
for
you
it
said,
with,
Gerald. I mean, the return of Jamie Lee Curtis. I love how they fleshed her character out and developed her character so that she's this trauma victim, and she's, you know, she fights back with her family. Like the whole thing is just what you would want in a Halloween sequel 40 years later.
Yeah.
So pleasing the fans and delivering a great horror film that was successful with not only fans but mainstream audiences as well.
and
It was a
look-
huge hit, one of the highest grossing horror movies ever made.
And look,
Bruh.
guys, when he gets the mask out of the trunk at the gas station, and
Chills.
puts that on, I mean, if you're a fan of Michael Myers or Halloween, I mean, come on. I mean, it literally does not get better than that.
I have that
Literally
mask
been
sitting right
watching
next
these
to me,
movies
and
for
I
40 years.
actually relived
So I
that
know.
out in front of Alamo Drafthouse, DC, before I went inside to scare the bejesus out of every single person that was going in to see that movie opening night. It was one of the best experiences ever. But you can't talk about that movie without talking about the score that John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, Daniel Davies put together. So brilliant, and one of the best horror scores ever.
Yeah, I agree. Justin, you got to give us your runner-up, man. What do you got?
Yes, and Loisos mentioned this movie like way too early on. It's one of the best slashers of all time. When I did my top 10 slashers episode a few years ago around Halloween time with Fear from Fearcast, this was right up there on the top of the list. I'm talking about Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Ted White's Jason Voorhees is vicious. He's a pit bull let off the leash and rabid. This dude will stop at nothing to kill you and everything innocent in his way. Yes, Corey Feldman is fantastic in it. Is in our first Tommy Jarvis. Little young mask maker, and we have the return of Tom Savini, which brings the best kills. You can see what Savini was trying to do in the original Friday the 13th and how he kind of revolutionized slasher movies. And then you can see a few years later when he comes back for the final chapter, how much he's grown, how much better he's gotten, and how much more vicious Jason becomes. And I mean, it has some of the most iconic kills of all time. We have the corkscrew in the hand and the hatchet to the face to Crispin Glover. We have at the end, the machete, Jason's face sliding down at the end. And I mean, it's just so brilliant. It has perfect amount of tension, awesome scares. And even though it doesn't really take place at a lake, I get that. It's fine. It's not necessarily Friday the 13th because it's really like a few days later in the storyline, but it doesn't matter because we don't care, because we're just there to watch Jason kill innocent motherfuckers. And that's why we enjoy the series. And I still say to this day, it's in the top 5 slashers ever made. Nothing can top it in my book. So number 2 is Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Love it. A little crossover with Loy Sauce there. So I have a question for you too, Justin. I don't know if you had a chance to go back and listen or read any of the comments from the stream last night, but Loy, let's ask him. So one of the questions was, what horror universe would you like to exist in?
Which horror? What was it like? Which horror franchise
Yeah,
would you want to be in?
What, like if you were yourself, you know what I mean? But you were a part of a world from.
Wait, so did someone ask this question and someone answered it?
Yeah, it was on the Podlyway game.
And who answered it?
Me and Loy came up with. What did we come up with? We said, well, Loy said Friday the 13th. I said Halloween.
No, the answer was Halloween. Nick's answer was Halloween.
Okay, that's
okay.
Right. It was what Nick would have said.
Nick is close because
I think
it's my favorite holiday. It's my favorite day of the year. However, more people in the Friday the 13th films get laid and do drugs and have fun.
That's what Loy Sauce said. He said he wants to hang out by the lake and do chicks. That is exactly.
That's exact. So, and he knows my past with those movies and how many times I've had it to them. So yes,
I really don't want to think about that. I don't know why you keep bringing that up.
You just want to think about the times you've had it with me. That's all.
There's Nick's bird again, guys, for everyone. Don't forget, guys, we're up to our number 1s. We're going to be wrapping up here probably in about the next 5 or 10 minutes. Don't forget to leave a donation of $5 or more to be entered for the Nightmare on Elm Street set that you're looking at there. It's all 7 movies, Blu-ray and DVD versions. I will order it from Amazon tonight and have it sent to you. So please get your $5 donations in. And then Nick, I'm going to make him do a bunch of work when he comes back from his break to draw the winner for that. Also, 2Ps is getting kind of rowdy in the chat there. All right, so we're up to our number 1s, guys. So the god of podcasting, Lula Loy Sauce. What's your number 1, man?
Thank you. I'd like to address a couple things in the chat first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here he goes.
No, Julio is giving his top 5, and that's fantastic. He's number 2, Unfriended Dark Web. He said, "Don't hate me, Loy Sauce. I think the Unfriended movies are a lot of fun, and I love the gimmick." Oh, did we get a donation?
We did. Christiani.
Christiani,
thank you so much. 666, of course.
66 cents.
How
Thank you,
fitting.
Yep.
So, sorry. He said, "Don't hate me, Loy Sauce. I think the Unfriended movies are a lot of fun, and I love the gimmick." I'm glad for you. I think the idea of the Unfriended series could be potentially very frightening, but whoever wrote those movies does not understand how the internet works at all. I'm just saying.
There was one that I liked in the same vein. What was the one with John Cho a couple years ago?
That was Searching, and that was infinitely better.
Searching was great. Searching was
I
great,
liked that
yes.
one, yeah. I don't think that was a horror, really, but I did like that one.
Thriller,
A
yeah.
thriller.
Okay.
So anyway, of course I don't hate you, Julio, but I just literally do not understand with all the horror sequels out there how you could put that as a number 2. To me, it just doesn't make sense. And then his number 1 was New Nightmare, which I also love New Nightmare, but I don't consider it a sequel because it is a meta.
It takes place in real life.
Yeah. So to me, it's not a direct sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street, so I did not count it. But that is an excellent pick for your number 1. I remember being absolutely blown away by New Nightmare when I saw it for the first time.
Hell
so
yeah.
excellent movie. But my number 1 has already been mentioned. It's Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, from 1987. This is the Mac Daddy of horror horror movies, period, let alone sequels. This is the original Evil Dead on steroids and crack. pretty much. It's also
And
one of the
acid. I would say acid 100%.
and acid, certain,
Yes.
sure, yeah, of course. It's also one of the best comedy films ever made because I just about die laughing at every pratfall. And Bruce Campbell gives a remarkably committed, go for broke performance. And the imagination of the master of his craft, Sam Raimi, never ceases to amaze me. It's like he sat down when writing the script and he's like, in how many ways can I torture Bruce Campbell in a mere 80 minutes? It's so much fun to watch. And it's wormed its way into the pop culture subconscious. And it was very influential for me in cultivating my own love of horror. Evil Dead 1 and 2 were two of the very first horror films that I ever saw. But the fact that it's number one for me has nothing to do with nostalgia, and I don't think you'll find too many people who will disagree that Evil Dead is the best, if not one of the best, then the best horror sequel ever made.
I like it. I like it. More crossover too with your boy over there, so I guess we're not too surprised.
I think everyone had that on their list, right?
No, I didn't.
You're a fucking piece of
Spoiler
shit.
alert! It's on my honorable mentions.
See, Gerald always does this.
I
Before we do
do.
top 5 lists, he'll consult with us via a message, and he'll go, okay, I don't want to run over your guys' picks too much. And he will go out of his way, and I do appreciate that he tries actually harder than most people would.
Yeah, I mean, I love them all so much. So, I mean, let's be honest. You throw them all up in the air and they all fall down. They're all amazing. So, at least on my end. So, I'm assuming you guys are much in the same boat where they're pretty equal for the most part. You know, I'm sure there's different characters and direction things that you guys like a little bit more than others. But, I mean, at the end of the day, my 5 to 10 movies I have here, and generally speaking on all my list, I love them all equally. And so the ranking thing gets a little crazy, but they're all number one to me. That's just my thing. Guys, get your $5 donations in or more. We're about to wrap up here. So, let's see, Dan, you're number one, man. Has it been mentioned yet? What do you got?
No, and I'm probably going to get it's a thriller, but no, I think it's pretty fucking terrifying. It's 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Okay. Great movie.
I mean, basically a woman gets kidnapped, which is terrifying in and of its own right. And then she's held against her will in this underground bunker by a guy who just claims the world has ended. And he begins to like psychologically and like physically torture his victims to a degree. But like John Goodman is fucking terrifying in that movie. Like
100%,
where he's,
dude.
like super charming, but then goes 100% in the other direction, where he just becomes horrifying and you're scared of him. Mary Elizabeth Winstead's great. I mean, like they had to tangentially put it back into the Cloverfield universe by like having her escape, and then like, oh, there's the monsters, and you have that kind of element, but still like it's a very real-ish movie. Like I'm not gonna say like, oh, you're gonna get kidnapped by a guy who has a doomsday bunker ready to go whenever, but like it feels real, and I think that really adds to the terror of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I agree with you
earlier.
100%. That was one of my favorite films of that year, and when I saw it for the first time, I was blown away by how amazing it was, and really upset when John Goodman didn't even get a nod, even though I knew he probably wouldn't at the Academy Awards. I thought it was a career best performance from John Goodman.
If they didn't give Toni Collette a nomination, forget it. We're never going to see one.
Yeah, I know, but men
50 years
seem
from
to, for some reason, they're
Well, that's
able to
true.
get,
Yeah.
That's
nominations over women in that genre.
That's true. All right, well, my number one has already been mentioned by several people, actually. So it's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Let's just talk about it, bro. It's my number one too. So let's
It
just
is?
let's just spooge all over this masterpiece.
I was going to say I'd be super surprised if it wasn't on your list, so that makes sense. But, I mean, for me, I already kind of mentioned it when Lloyd brought it up. But, I mean, the kills here, Jennifer's head into the TV screen. This is your big break in TV. I mean, come on.
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Yes. And Lloyd alluded to it, but, I mean, this is when Freddy became a character, I mean, so many killers like Michael Myers and Jason and the other ones that we've been talking about are, stalk and kill, and, they're just kind of no personality. You know what I mean? Freddy really went over that. He went out of the box in terms of that. And it was also kind of a supernatural thing because, I mean, he's in your dreams, man. I mean, everybody's got to sleep. You can't escape this guy. So I've always made the joke, though, that Freddy was so cool and so funny that it's like I almost want to be a victim of his. Do you know what I mean? I would almost be like wanting him to give me a stand-up act before he killed me, I just think he's so funny and so personable, especially in this movie. And that was when we really got to see it for the first time, like really on display here. But, yeah, the kill on the TV, the puppeteer scene with the puppet master strings. I mean, this is one of my favorite horror movies ever. Definitely, probably my favorite horror sequel. Justin, you go ahead, man. I know you love it too.
I mean, I've discussed this on countless occasions, on countless episodes, on my top 10 slashers episode that I did with Fear from Fearcast. On the B side, I did with Loy Sauce. When I got to see the movie, on 35 millimeter at Freddy Fest last year with our good friend, the Hopesters, Dumpsters, best friend of all time, Hopester Mania there in the chat, Patrick Sherwood. I mean, I've literally seen this movie probably right on the same level as many times as I've seen the original Halloween. It is a classic, and for good reason. Chuck Russell took the original concept that Wes Craven portrayed in the first film and amped it up times 10, added a deep fantasy element to it within, the restraints of the budgetary, whatever they had available to them, and really made something special. Unfortunately, even though I like 4 and 5 and elements of those films a lot, I think that it peaked with 3. I think, they didn't get the right amount of talent and someone in there that was a visionary with the right producers. I mean, Bob Shea was known for cracking the whip on every single one of these movies because this was the bread and butter for New Line Cinema. So, I mean, Dream Warriors stands above and beyond. And of course, it has the legendary song by Dokken.
That's right.
Dream Warriors.
That's right.
I
got to see this. Actually,
don't want
Loy,
to
I got to see
dream
this in
no
Alamo
more.
Draft House a couple years ago.
It's just so amazing, dude. So I mean, it had to make my number one. I approached this list with sequels that took the subject matter from the first film and really built upon it, really made it something special. And most fans in the Nightmare, realm
we're done.
will consider either the first one or the third one the best.
All right, guys. Look, everybody that I can see your face here, you guys know how much I love you. Loy and Justin, thank you for joining me for this. Top 5 horror sequels. This was actually, I want to say, pitched originally by Loy Sauce. I know he was passionate about it. He even wore his nicest shirt to be here with us this evening. I don't know.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. But
it's okay. And I don't care. And Nick can crack the whip all he wants, but I'm going to jump in here and do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, he's coming back over into the chair, though, so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone.
No, it's okay.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much for the donations. We're going to do the drawing, I think, before Fuzzy Dan comes in, or we're going to try to. But he's
real quick. I just wanted to go through my honorable mentions very quickly.
Course, yeah.
My number 6, I had Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. At number 7, I had Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. At number 8, I had The Conjuring 2. At number 9, I had Scream 2. And number 10, even though I don't consider the original Jaws a horror film, I had Jaws 2. I had to throw it some love during the summer season.
And I will jump in with my honorable mentions that haven't been mentioned yet. Psycho 2, which is never given enough love, in my opinion.
Whoa.
Psycho 2 is great.
No, I like it. That's awesome. That's a great honorable mention.
The Exorcist 3. And I guess this isn't a horror film, but it should be mentioned just for teaser reasons. But Gremlins 2, the new batch, is celebrating an anniversary this year. So
we shouldn't be telling anyone about that yet, Loy Sauce.
Just saying.
They're not going to remember anyways.
It's not like it's a big secret. Gremlins 2 is beloved, and it has a anniversary coming up. So I just thought I'd mention it.
Dan, any honorable mentions at all?
No, you're not. Now I'm not. I'm fixed. Okay. I was going to say Dead Snow 2 as a shout out to Nick.
Dead Snow 2 is super fun.
Nick just loves that movie.
It's like
They
Swedish
shoot
Evil
a baby
Dead.
with a tank.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's super funny. That's really all it comes down to. I had a bunch of oothers, but I can't find my piece of paper. So,
how much? All right, be honest, Dan. How much you guys been drinking up there? Come on, be honest.
Not too much, actually. That was only my 3rd beer.
Should I drive up there right now? I'll be there in like 5 hours.
Sure. If you do what you want. Yes, that's it. Red versus Dead. I have others,
nice.
but I can't think of them now. But Gerald wants to be on.
Real quick. My own?
Yes.
Yes.
He's on.
So
He's
my
on.
I'm putting my honorables in the chat, guys. I just dropped them all in the chat.
Oh my god, you fucking piece of garbage.
And there's a couple of hot takes in there, guys. H2O,
No hot
I
takes,
said it.
they're all great.
Nightmare 2, I said it. Scream 4, I fucking said it. So I love them all.
They're all
H2O, yes, baby.
I love H2O. Gerald, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Gerald rules. We got to give Gerald a round of applause for driving up there, helping out, and all of his support and passion for the epic film, guys.
And thank you, everyone in the chat, for your donations.
Hey, I'm still compiling names for Gerald's drawing, so keep talking.
Tony said, wouldn't be a horror sequel discussion without including LL Cool J. Yes, those giant, voluptuous melon breasts.
That's right.
Oh my God in heaven.
I was hoping you were going to say Busta Rhymes so I could utter the line. Lois, let's just go for it. Just say it, please.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
Now, see, this is what Nick should be recording. That's another one-liner for you on the soundboard that will come in handy.
Already
And
being recorded.
It's
There
not really a
we
one-liner
go.
that I came up with. The brilliant screenwriters of Halloween Resurrection came up with it.
But you say it so wonderfully and with such passion and oh God damn it, Patrick Sherwood, Sharknado 5 global swarming.
No.
Is the
guys.
hopester there with you? Is the
How?
hopester on your
Okay,
couch
so-
typing on your computer?
Shut up. So, gentlemen, thank you all so much for your wonderful horror segment. We've got like literally 30 seconds before I got to get Fuzzy Dan in here. But I finally finished compiling all the names for Gerald's drawing here. So let me go ahead and we're going to chuck these guys over into random result. I love that we're literally at 66666.
That's what I
Thank
was
you
gonna
so much,
mention.
Chris
That's awesome.
Eni.
We need to get photographic evidence of this.
You know
Patrick
how to take
Sherwood,
a
where you at, bro?
screenshot, don't you?
Patrick Sherwood, take a screenshot. Let's give the horns, baby.
Yeah, I got it.
I was gonna do it.
So,
Yeah,
all right,
that's
ladies
fine.
and gentlemen, the winner of the Nightmare on Elm Street collection. Let's get that drum rolling here. I don't believe this. Bill Sutton, ladies and gentlemen. The Bill goes himself.
Hey!
Oh, my
Fucking
lord,
Bill.
my lord, my lord. All right, so ladies and gentlemen,
Congratulations.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to Gerald again for stepping in for that segment. Man, it's nice to get up and move. Even though I literally sat over there and I was literally bombarding social media with trying to get it out there to Discord channels that I'm part of for Twitch streams and all sorts of different things and whatever. It's just so much nicer, so much easier. But thank you guys also so much for taking part in the segment. Everybody for donating and everything, and Justin and Loisos for setting aside some time for your afternoon to come and talk about horror movies.
Of course.
You guys,
I mean, I'm
you
here
guys are
now. I'm
horror
off.
fans.
It's the weekend, dude. I've been working the last 3 days, so
Listen, I don't want to hear your complaints. But
no complaints. Just an explanation.
Let's see. Everybody get out. 'Cause now we are going to be joined, ladies and gentlemen, by Fuzzy Dan from the Shaken Not Nerd podcast. We're going to be talking about video games. Can I stop sharing that,
Oh,
please?
Drew did it.
Stop doing that. Save that. And okay. Are you guys going to hang out to talk video games?
I am.
I'm good.
I will go eat dinner, but I'll be in the chat.
I'll go smoke weed on the porch.
Also acceptable.
Everyone's shocked.
Cool, Justin.